Is Marvel killing Star Wars? This is an interesting question because not only is it beating it box office wise, it opened up with $260 million domestically, and the previous record holder was The Force Awakens. But I'm not talking about sales. I mean, of course, it's going to do really well in sales. This movie was built up for 10 years. By the way, I did see Infinity War Friday night. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. There are, of course, some flaws in it that I wasn't too fond of. But I love Thanos, the character. He was the best villain by far in the Marvel Universe. I really liked him. So I'm glad that we actually have a villain in the Marvel Universe other than, like, Ultron and Loki that are really good. Oh, also the guy that Michael B. Jordan, I believe is his name, played in Black Panther. He was a really good villain. Even though I don't think that movie was as good as everybody gives it praise for, he was a really, really good villain. So, how's Marvel messing up things for Star Wars? Well, let's look at what happened since Marvel has come out. Marvel started in 2018, not the franchise, but the movie stuff that they're doing. They started this new cinematic universe in 2008. Why did I say 2018? I meant 2008. Anyways, 2008 they came out with Iron Man, they came out with Incredible Hulk, and they did the post-credit scenes and everything. That started becoming a thing. They started building in a universe, and it's been 10 years. They've been doing it carefully. About a movie, 2 or 3, maybe even 4 movies a year. I mean, it was ridiculous. They're pumping these things out like a factory would. So they're coming out with these things constantly. The problem with this is they're successful, and so everyone else wants to hop on that bandwagon. You have the DC universe trying to do the same thing, coming out with a movie like every year, if not every other year, and honestly, none of them have really been that good. You have DC doing it. You have, I think Ghostbusters was trying to do it, and then they, flopped really bad. Jurassic Park has become its little cinematic universe kind of thing as well. Who else? The Pirates of the Caribbean. Even though I absolutely love that franchise, I love Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't know why. It's just, I know it's not that good, but I really enjoy it. And so, at least I can admit that. You have Pirates of the Caribbean that's doing the same thing. Godzilla's trying to do it as well. I mean, Avatar's doing 9 films back to back to back, like a 2-year time span. So you have all these movies trying to come out nonstop. And then it's coming off on Star Wars as well. Once Disney bought Star Wars, they did the same thing. You have 9 more Star Wars movies coming out that are that are confirmed. And so you have stuff like this where it's just kind of, And so the reason Marvel's doing it well is because they're giving the directors and the writers a little bit of creative freedom. Unlike Kathleen Kennedy in charge of Lucasfilm, she doesn't give that much creative freedom. She wants to be very hands-on herself and kind of limit it. But with Marvel, the problem with it is, I saw Infinity War, I really liked it. Ended on a cliffhanger, of course we all pretty much knew it was. And so you watch it and you're like, oh, this is really good, and then you're excited for the next one. But that's kind of it. After the next one, even going into this one, I was kind of like, once this movie is over, I'm going to be done with the franchise. Marvel's been milking out these movies a lot, and they're building up characters that you don't really care about. Like, for me, Doctor Strange. I didn't see that movie. I didn't want to see it because why? I don't care about him. He's not a character I'm interested in, and when I watched him in Infinity War, it was the first time I saw him other than Thor Ragnarok, and I really liked him. I was like, oh, this is a really good character. But I don't want a full movie on him. And so they're doing that with every Marvel character they can think of. Black Widow's getting her own movie. Why do I care about her? I really don't care. If Hawkeye got his own movie, I wouldn't want to go see it because why? They're good characters, but they don't need their own movie. Their story is already tied in really well. And so Star Wars is trying to replicate that with characters like Han Solo and the Rogue One movie. As much as I love Rogue One because it is the best Disney movie that's come out for Star Wars recently, it wasn't needed. I didn't need to know why the Death Star plans got into the hands of the rebellion. I didn't need to know that at all. It was literally just a big fan film that filled up a plot hole of the Death Star being blown up by a little tiny hole. That was it. That's all it was. I didn't need it. Was it good? Yeah. But then you get the Han Solo movie, which I'm not saying it's bad or good right now because I haven't seen it. But you have that movie where it's kind of like everybody's like, oh man, I'm kind of nervous about this. Why? Because you're getting Han Solo his own movie. We didn't need that. We didn't ask for it, and it doesn't help the story at all. It doesn't enhance the story at all. Han Solo was a perfectly fine character in the original trilogy. You don't need to give him a backstory. So you're having this trend of Marvel rubbing off on Star Wars, where before Episode 8 even comes out, Disney goes, or Lucasfilm says, well, we're going to give Rian Johnson 3 more movies. And so now it's like, well, this guy made, Episode 8. Well, now he has his own trilogy to mess around with. And then you give the creators of, or the writers for Game of Thrones, you give them their own trilogy. And, you have all these people that are coming in making these Star Wars movies, and you don't know if they're going to be good or not. And let's be honest, every single one of them is not going to be good. Even if some of them are good, even some of them are bad. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad. But that's the problem. It's going to be quantity over quality. They're going to pump one out every year until I die, and it's just going to be downright annoying. And they're doing the same thing with Marvel. There's so many characters in Marvel that I truly don't care about anymore. Like Black Panther, I didn't need a spinoff for Black Panther. Was it a good movie? Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't see it again, but I did enjoy it. But you have Black Panther. He was fine in Civil War. I didn't need to see an extra movie about him. His character was perfectly explained, and it was perfectly fine. I knew exactly what Wakanda was. It was his own country and everything. That's fine. They could have explained that Wakanda was really advanced and whatnot in Infinity War. But the problem now we have is that all these movies are coming out nonstop, and it's no longer about the story. The villains in Marvel have never been good except for Loki, the Michael B. Jordan guy from Black Panther. He was really good, and then Thanos. All the other villains have been really forgettable and bad. I mean, Age of Ultron, I guess you can say, was all right. People liked Ultron. I liked him. I liked his voice at least. But still, you have all these villains and all these movies from Marvel, but it's so predictable. It's the same thing. Oh, the hero goes through some hardships and everything. They have the kind of fall of it, and then they rise up and they beat the villain in the end, and all is well in the world. It's boring and it's old. It gets old really fast and repetitive. And so the superhero genre has really taken over the movie industry, and I think it's killing movies. You have movies like Lincoln that have come out. Lincoln was a really good movie. It wasn't historically accurate, but it's still a really good movie. And even the director for that, I think it was Steven Spielberg. He said himself, it's hard to make a good movie nowadays because everyone wants to see the superhero stuff. They want to see the action. They want to see the small little Marvel humor that you get. And that kind of replaces story-driven movies like Lincoln. And even like that movie A Quiet Place that came out not too long ago, directed by John Krasinski, I believe is how you say his last name. It was really good. It was creative. It was something new. But you don't get films like that a lot anymore because it has to be the Marvel brand. It has to feel Marvel. It has to have a lot of movies following it up. It has to be, a generic villain and then a superhero, and you have funny jokes in the middle. That's it. I mean, some people were even calling Infinity War a masterpiece. It was a really good movie. I will give you that. It was probably the best summer blockbuster I've seen in a long, long time. But it wasn't a masterpiece. It was just a really good movie. And so my fear with Marvel and Star Wars is Disney's going to try to replicate Marvel with Star Wars, and they're going to be like, well, if it can work for Marvel, it'll work for Star Wars. We're going to pump one out every year, and if it's bad, then that's okay because we got one coming out next year. And that makes a bad case for Star Wars is because it makes it where Star Wars isn't special anymore. Marvel was never something really big special because, there's so many movies. It wasn't like a big cult classic kind of thing. Or culture phenomenon. I mean, it is a big culture thing, especially recently in the past 2 years. But overall, it's not. And so you have something like Star Wars, which changed the film industry forever and for good. Coming out in the 80s and 70s, where I was like, oh my god. And when you grow up, you hear Star Wars, everybody's like, yeah, that's so good movies and everything. Everyone loves Star Wars. And the prequels came out, I was like, those weren't that good, but man, that original trilogy was really good. Everybody likes Star Wars. Everyone knows the lines. I am your father. The Force will be with you always. All these classic lines that came from Star Wars. Now you get all these new Star Wars movies where it makes it where Star Wars isn't special anymore. It's becoming oversaturized, and you just kind of lose the fun for it and lose the love. Where it's like, now that it's not that good, you look at Episode 9, you're like, well, I'm more excited for Marvel's Infinity War, or Part 2, or whatever they're going to call it, than I am for Episode 9. Because, Infinity War actually did it really well of having kind of a darker tone and more depressing tone than The Last Jedi. I can't even explain how great, the difference is, but you can just tell. And also, Marvel didn't really crap on previous built characters from the 80s, but, that's just me. So, yeah, I think Marvel's kind of bad for Star Wars. I love Marvel. I've loved Marvel, and once the next Avengers comes out, my prediction is they're gonna, Thanos is gonna bring back everybody from the dead that faded off in the dust, and all the old Avengers are gonna die, sacrificing themselves for the new ones, and that'll be the new franchise of Marvel. It'll be the new Avengers, and then the old Avengers will make cameos from time to time. But overall, I mean, it's just going to be like, all right, well, that's it. Once that next Avengers movie comes out, I'm kind of done with it. And with Star Wars, you already got people who are kind of done with it. And it's only been, 3 movies? And people are already kind of like, it's gotten old. And that's sad because this is a great fan base and it's a great, franchise. I love Star Wars. It's amazing. But if it becomes, quantity over quality, it's going to be hard to enjoy it. So, I don't know. Just me. Comment your thoughts below, though. Do you like Infinity War? Did you think it was a great movie? I absolutely loved it. I can't wait to see it again. Or were you, not liking it? I don't really know why you couldn't like it, but still, that's just me. What do you think it's going to have an impact on for Star Wars? Do you think Star Wars is going to do better because of Marvel, or do you think it's going to do worse because of the Marvel effect? And what do you think about the Marvel effect? Do you think I'm right, or do you think I'm just, over-exaggerating things? I don't know. Comment your thoughts below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all next time. May the Force be with you, always.